What's up, y'all? Wave God Wilcox here out at my home club, Inverness Golf Club in Birmingham, Alabama, the motherland. Born and raised here. I love this place. I joined it a few years ago once I was no longer broke, having run through every dime I made in professional golf. I joined here. Really excited to have a club membership again. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about how I read putts, a little bit how me and Sungjae read putts, Sungjae and I, and just how important like setup is on putting. And when you're reading putts with somebody else, you gotta swallow your pride and know that there's a lot of, it's not an exact science. You're putting on turf. So different things are going to happen. I mean, especially on like a Poana or a Bermuda grass, the grain can grab it on certain putts. I think that people get too wrapped up in reads and how like everybody's strike is different. I mean, very few pros put a perfect roll on it every time. So what's that mean for your average single digit handicap? You're not going to put the best roll on it ever. So when you're reading putts with your buddies in a money game or a member guest, just everybody needs to cut each other some slack, because this is hard and it's not black and white. But like I find that setup is everything. If you're not setting up over the ball the exact same way every time, then the read can be very null and void. Maybe you're a cutter, maybe you hook your putts. Maybe it has a little bit of skip on it, which is going to affect the speed. And everybody reads putts differently because everybody sees how much it rolls out differently. If you're a guy that is dying it, then you're going to need to read more break. If you're a guy that hammers the putts and they go this far by, then there's going to be less break, obviously. But when I first started working for Sungjae, he would always say finish, which means point at the cup. So 2 cups out, 3 cups out, 4 cups out. And the way I was able to get away from that was we had a 30-footer one day and I said, all right, 19 cups out. And he was just, he didn't like the sound of that at all. And I said, so, I see kind of an apex. So, and by apex, I mean where it's kind of going to start running out of pace and take the break. So this putt right here, I would say it's, 2 cups out or so. So we're going to pick a spot roughly halfway, agree on it. And if you roll it over that with the proper amount of pace, then, the odds are decent that it's going to go in. But also, when reading the greens, I think reading it from here, maybe inside of 10 feet, I keep checking back just because we're using a golf course. There are other members here. Anyhow, just trying to be considerate. So inside of 12 feet, behind the ball is okay. But I think it can do more damage than good on reading the greens, because the first third of the putt doesn't really matter because it's got the momentum on it. So I prefer to read, especially on Bermuda and bent grass, because people like to say bent doesn't have that much grain, but it does. And it's just when you see the shading, it's kind of like a topographical map. And the grain is going down the slope or where the water flows, generally. I think the overall, it breaks toward the ocean is kind of crap, because, in America, we layer these greens so well and they're shaped and sculpted. So maybe if the whole property slopes a certain way, that might have an effect. And I could see it having an effect when it comes to the pace. But, you're not going to have a putt break up a hill necessarily. And if you think it is breaking up a hill, you're just confused, in my opinion. But anyways, I think reading the first third of the putt is a bit of a waste of time. I mean, from 6 feet, obviously, it's not coming out with that much pace, so that'll apply more. But I like to read the other side of the hole to see what the last third does. I like to find the low spot. And this is just the way I do it. I mean, this isn't gospel, but I do read putts for one of the best players in the world. So it's like, I like to try to learn from people that do it at a high level. And I caddy on the PGA Tour, so obviously I do it for, you know, I don't have a 9 to 5. I read putts all day. Anyways, so this one right here, looking for a spot, agree on the apex, and have it roll across. And if a putt dies and it only gets this far past the hole, then it was just bad speed. There's a lot of factors that go into it, whether a putt goes in, or it's a you know, a decent effort or not. But yeah, find the low spot. You want to be looking up. You want to see the darker shade of the grain. When you see a lighter shade, that's generally going to be going away from you, the grain, and it's going to want to drift that way. But you got to get to where you can have that trained eye on the greens, which is hard, but it is a topographical map, and you're going to see shading. And then you got to get that acute eye before you can really, you know, have a decent guess on what this putt's going to do. But yeah, anyways, I really am a firm believer in doing a 360 read as opposed to a directly behind it. You don't want to live and die by just this, because you're really only getting a good example of what the first little bit is doing, and that part doesn't matter because that's when the putt has pace. But it's when it's dying, that's the key. The second half or the last third of the break is everything, and you want to see around the hole which side is rougher, because the grain over the day will kind of grow that direction. So that's what it's doing at the hole is very important. So the opposite side and the low side, and that's how I read putts with Sung Jae.